Hi everyone, and welcome to today's presentation on navigating the low-code landscape. My name is Jason Beres. I'm a Senior Vice President at Infragistics, and my email is jasonb@infragistics.com. A little bit about me. I manage the design and product development teams that innovate across Infragistics products with a heavy emphasis on user experience for developer tooling, UI frameworks, and data visualization. I've been at the company for 20 years now. I was an MVP for Microsoft for 13 years, focused on languages, and I am the author or co-author of 10 books ranging from Visual Basic to C# to SQL Server to Silverlight to C++. So a lot of different development experience and a lot of industry experience over the last 25 to 30 years, which is really how we end up where we're at today. My email and Twitter, feel free to contact me after the event. Today we're going to look at low code by the numbers. You've heard a lot of numbers today. You're going to continue to hear numbers about the explosive growth of this space, and you're going to hear a lot of opinions. So we're going to look at what the analysts are saying. I'm going to show you some of the commercial options available. I have a very long list of open source options available. Then we'll jump into a demo, and then we'll wrap up the presentation. So let's go ahead and get started. So low code by the numbers, as we've heard multiple times, $29 billion revenue potential of low code by 2025. And this has a 20 to 25% compounded annual growth. So by 2030, you're looking at 80 to $100 billion or more space for low-code tooling, which means not only is there going to be a lot of players, but there are a lot of people using low-code, no-code. 41% of employees are business technologists, according to Gartner. What this means is you don't need to be in IT to use technology to further your efforts in your role. So this is where low code comes into play. Up until now, most of these folks have been using tools like Microsoft Excel. As we move forward, there's more automation and more tools that give richer experiences to deliver better solutions for employees. And then 80% of developers are outside of formal IT using low code. So this goes back to your business technologist story. But it also means folks in the marketing department that manage the website. They're not in the formal IT department, or they may not be, and they are using low-code tools to do their jobs. You look at product managers, product owners using low-code tools for prototyping, rapid application development. They're not in formal IT. So not only do you have explosive growth in tooling, you have explosive growth in the people using the tooling, which also adds other headaches, like how are we handling security? How are we handling governance? Well, that's not for this talk. That's for someone else to talk about, but there's all kinds of movement there and all kinds of concerns as the low-code numbers continue to explode. So the drivers, there's 3 that I have listed, but there are many more drivers that are making low-code so popular. So if we look at the exceptional time to value, you can literally pull together applications that are running and deployed within 20 minutes, maybe within 10 minutes. Maybe richer applications might take a day or a week, where before you had to wait for the IT backlog to clear, which could have been months or potentially years to actually get what you needed, and then by the time you get it, it's outdated and you don't need it anymore. So the time to value is really the biggest driver of the low-code story. Building at scale. Low-code platforms allow organizations to develop solutions without incurring heavy costs, from process automation apps to mission-critical systems for modernization. So what does this mean? It means that you can buy a platform tool for, let's say, $100,000 that can do the job of $5 million worth of developers in 1/10 of the time. Does that mean those developers go away? No, you still need developers, but developers need to buy in to this type of application development and type of scalability. So you can accelerate time to value, you can accelerate time to deploy, time to customer satisfaction using these low-code tools at a significantly lower cost than what you would otherwise pay doing it the old way. And that goes to number 3, which is shaping modern development. No matter what, and Forrester has statistics on this, you're looking at 50 to 60% of folks using low-code tools in IT over the next 3 to 5 years, and that number just goes higher and higher. And it's not necessarily up to the developer, it's up to the development manager, it's up to the people that are trying to drive revenue and drive better customer satisfaction that see these tools and they say, hey, we really need to modernize our development process. How do we integrate these tools in? And this could be from the simplest low-code automation to the heavy-handed modern SaaS managed system in low code. And there's a whole range of these tools, and we're going to look at some of those today. So the tooling landscape, this is where it gets a little bit confusing. There are a ton of players emerging daily. I subscribe to different newsletters, and I'm getting updates almost daily about a new low-code tool that is well-funded, maybe not well-funded, but maybe they got $1 million because they had a good idea, all the way up to the very well-funded 80, 100, 200, $500 million investments from big tech angels that are bringing money to this new technology. So there is a lot to parse. If we look at the different platforms, you have everything from self-hosted Docker containers on your own server to fully managed services. You've got features that go all the way from doing basic admin forms all the way to app creation, deployment, and management. And then pricing ranges from free to $99 a month to call us for pricing. And those are the ones that always worry me, where they're afraid to actually show their pricing. But this is what you're up against when you look at all of these tools. And you have to be able to decide, what do I really need? What does my business need? What skill sets do I have to actually use these tools either in IT or outside of IT? And if you haven't gone down the low-code, no-code path yet, you may just want to say, hey, let's start small. Yeah, we can start with the self-hosted Docker container that our IT guy can deploy on an internal server and kind of explore some of these tools. And then as we learn them and understand the feature sets and understand how they can improve our development process or how they can improve our time to value, maybe in a marketing or sales department, maybe we go to a fully managed service, which will be more money, but long-term you're actually saving. So I have a list here based on Gartner. Gartner has this thing called the Magic Quadrant. I think everyone's heard of the Magic Quadrant. And this is where I kind of put forth these top commercial options. There are so many players out there. You almost have to look to an expert analyst to get a more cohesive list of what potentially you should be looking at. Many of these folks you have looked at already, probably, or you can't get away from their advertising. For example, every time I do a search for low code, OutSystems is the first ad in my list, or ServiceNow is the first ad in my list. So they're heavily spending on Google marketing to get your attention. But if we look at the leaders in the space, Mendix, Microsoft, OutSystems, Salesforce, ServiceNow, these are platform players with mature feature sets that you could pick up today and start building end-to-end applications and not use any code. So they might be in the low-code application platform space, but these are really no-code vendors. You don't have to write any code. You can take the ServiceNow app, the ServiceNow platform, and create an entire app and deploy it, and you're done. Same with Microsoft, OutSystems, Salesforce, etc. In the visionaries area, these are folks that have the ability to get into that leader space, and they have some really good ideas, but they aren't quite there yet. So Appian, Pegasystems, and Zoho. You know, if I look at Pegasystems, they have a very broad platform offering, and these are still billion-plus dollar companies. They're massive. It's just they're not quite there at the level of a Microsoft yet. And then challengers, companies like Oracle, which have good ideas, but they're not quite there yet. And then niche players are folks that have the ability to continue to move up the, let's say, food chain of competitors in the low-code, no-code space, but they're very focused in a certain area. So they might be focused just in forms design, or just in IoT, or just in automation. Or maybe they don't have as robust a solution. For example, Kintone is an Infragistics customer, so they use our products in their low-code tool. It's a very robust tool. Apple uses Kintone for some of their solutions internally. You can design, build, and deploy an application with Kintone, but it's still not as robust as something like the leaders or the visionaries. And we're going to take a look at one or two of these in our demo today. And then open source. There are so many open source options. I put together a list of 25 or 30, I think there's actually 30 in my list, not 25, with links. So when you download this PDF with the presentation, you can click on these links and go right to these different open source options. They range, and these are not in order of one's better or one is worse. It's just a list. I put some of the more popular ones up top. I think AppSmith is very popular. It's a really good tool. And then there's just tons of other tools here. So you have everything from, .NET focused, Node.js focused, Python focused, everything from automation all the way up to entire app building. Most of these focus on internal applications, but they can all help you build out some aspect of a low-code process in your company. And then finally, 3 of 3 here, everything from forms to schema-based approach to build logic apps, standards-based platforms built on Node.js. So they vary greatly, but I wanted you to have this list. I searched high and low to get at least a decent list together from different websites and, of course, Google searches, and this is what I came up with. So have fun with these. Some of them I'm already using, actually. So NoCodeDB, we've deployed. I think we've deployed Buddybase. I think we're using some of the automation ones. And then there's other ones that through this research I found that I'm definitely going to use. Now, some of the other things that you might want to consider is like amplification, helps you build microservices. So do you need help on just the back end and not the front end? So think about this when you're looking at these tools, because there is no doubt something here can help you. But again, how complex is it to get going? How does it fit into your systems, etc.? These are things that you need to figure out. So let's go into a demo, and I want to show a few applications, and then we'll wrap this up. So I'm going to show 3 tools really quickly. The first one is NoCodeDB, which is in the open source list. The second one is a commercial product called Retool, and the third one is a product called App Builder, which of course is my favorite. So NoCodeDB is just like Airtable. I already have a project set up that I'm going to show you because it's complete and it looks good. You can start a new project by clicking New Project, which allows you to give it a name, and then you can upload a CSV file or start from scratch, or you can connect to an external database. I have a tasks application that I've been working with testing out NoCodeDB with one of my coworkers, Casey, and if I jump into the tasks table, you can see that it is very airtablemonday.com looking. So I have a bunch of different items in my spreadsheet, which is nicely formatted. I have different column types, so what's really nice here is just like Airtable or Monday.com, you can edit different column types. You can decide what type of column you want this to be. You can give it a name, you can give it a color, you can do all kinds of advanced options, and all of this is open source and free. So for example, I want to build videos on how to use our Reveal SDK with .NET, Node.js, and Java. This is the automatic data entry form that it made for me, and I can fill out these different things and save it, and it'll update the database, or I can add new items, I can link items, I could share this with users. But again, this is a very robust tool, NoCodeDB. It was a Docker container that was deployed to an internal server, so anyone has access to it. And it's pretty robust, and they seem to have a pretty good community behind it. So if you were looking at something like Airtable or Monday, and you just want a table-based low-code tool to keep track of things and share lists, NoCodeDB is cool. Retool is the second option. Retool and AppSmith are very similar. AppSmith was on the open source list. Retool is a commercial product. If I go over to pricing, it is very nice pricing. You can have a free version for up to 5 users with all kinds of neat capabilities. And then it's really inexpensive, $10 per user per month. That's cheap, $50 per user per month for the business options. But anyway, what Retool allows you to do is build applications for internal use and then share them across your organization. And it does it really, really well. So let's go ahead and sign in. I am going to use one of my fake email addresses, Miriam at Apex Homes. So I'm going to give this an Apex Homes URL. And keep in mind, this is the first time I'm logging in. I've never logged into Retool before, so it's asking me these few questions. I'm going to go ahead and continue. And the first screen that pops up is an option on what type of application I'd like to build. This type of UI where I've got sort of a application on the left with forms on the right, or a menu on the left with pop-up forms. So if I just select this guy on the left and I'm going to click next, what kind of app do I want to create? Users, orders, transactions. Let's do orders. I'll generate the application. And again, this is a sample app with sample data behind it. Based on the icons on the left, it looks like it's using a Postgres database on their back end. And you can see that magically it has just created this screen for me. If I go into preview mode, as I select different rows, you can see on the right-hand side, the data is changing, so like a master detail. And if I click, you can see it looks like NoCodeDB or Airtable with the nice formatting in the grid columns, and I can do some different things in the grid as well. If I get out of preview mode, let's go ahead and take a look and see what else we can do here. You've got custom queries on the bottom, looks like the table schema, and then over on the right-hand side, all of the properties for various aspects of my form. So if I go to create, you can see there's a ton of different options here for different types of user interface that I might want to add. So let's scroll down and let's grab a PDF. And I'm going to drag a PDF onto the screen. Looks like it has a fake PDF for me already. Obviously, I would want to put in my own PDF here, but this is how easy it is to do a drag and drop. If I grab a table and let's drag this table over onto my form, it looks like it took the same data that I had earlier. There seems to be a get rows function, and it added the same data to my form, and here I can go ahead and customize, show, hide, and do different things with this. So very robust, full end-to-end CRUD capabilities, screen design, sharing, preview, etc. You don't get any source code for this in terms of like what is being generated in the back end, and it's managed and hosted by Retool. And then finally, App Builder, which is my favorite tool because we're software developers and we like to build beautiful applications but then also get source code. So here I can start with one of the sample template applications, or I can use an empty template. I'm going to go ahead and grab one of the samples, and this will be the team collaboration sample. And here I am in the App Builder Designer. This is helping me build out single page applications. If I select items, you can see I've got my DOM Explorer on the left. I have properties on the right based on what I'm selecting. I have a full toolbox of UI controls, very similar to what you saw in Retool. I have data connections. I can do different themes for my application, so I can customize this however I'd like, and then I could upload image assets. If I go back to my screens, let's go ahead and add a child view, and we'll leave it at child view. I can pick a layout, so in this case I'll do a top and bottom layout, and let me add a data grid to this form, and let me add a chart. Here's my category chart. I'm not going to do anything in terms of customizing except maybe add a few features like exporting, paging, toolbar, allow grouping and pinning on this grid, and then the chart I'll leave the same. If I want to preview this live application, I can preview it and interact with it, but the nice thing here is that all along it is generating code for this application, so I can get the Angular, Blazor, or Web Components code for this app. In my case, since I'm taking a low-code tool and then passing it off to my dev team to continue to work on it, this is a great way to work. So based on your workflow and the type of applications that you want to build, you can decide what type of tooling works best. Something as simple as a grid UI, something as robust as an end-to-end application that gets deployed in a managed environment, or a SaaS-based app builder application that then you can get real production-ready source code for. Okay, so that was a lot to see really fast, but I hope you got the idea that with those few tools that I did show, the options vary greatly in what you can get from a low-code solution in the market, all the way from open source to commercial. So the recommendations I have is understand your needs and strategy before you choose. Do you need something like code generation, like I showed you in App Builder, where you get a full Angular app or a full Blazor app that your developers can then take and continue to build on? So you save like 80% of that time building screens, but you still have to add in your domain logic. Do you need just automation? Maybe just admin forms or some back office capabilities that you don't need to deploy out to customers, so they don't maybe need to be as polished. Is the solution for a citizen developer or a pro developer? That's a big deal. So is it really for the power user, that tech business user that Gartner talked about, or is it for a pro dev? That's a big decision to make when you're choosing these tools. And is a fully managed service affordable? Do I need to spend $30,000 to $50,000 to $100,000 on a solution to get started, or can I start small? Do they have per user pricing, per server pricing, unlimited user pricing? These are all the things that you need to really look into when you are exploring solutions. Open source might be a good starting place, but can you manage it? Is it a stable, funded project? Will it be here in 2 years? This is a big question. So many open source products go away, and then you're kind of left like, okay, can we manage and make this stable for the next releases and the next versions of whatever it happens to be built on? So use caution with open source. Maybe it's a starting place, or if it's a well-funded project, maybe backed by Meta or Microsoft or someone else, then it's probably worth or the risk is less. Start with business outcomes before evaluating tech stacks. This is a pitfall that developers fall into all the time. Hey, I want to use Angular and Node. Okay, well, don't worry about that right now. Look at what the business needs and then find the tools that fit the business needs versus maybe your favorite application stack. Because at the end of the day, you're going to find low-code, no-code tools that might be perfect for what you need, but it's built on Python and you don't know anything about Python. And maybe you don't care because you're never exposed to that. So you have to really look at those business outcomes before you evaluate your tech stacks and then decide based on those business outcomes. And then finally, be prepared for very rapid change. This is a massive growth space, fast innovation, AI, you name it, tons of money. When billions of dollars are at stake, there's going to be consolidation and there's going to be innovation. So make sure that you're reading the tea leaves and looking ahead to understand where the market's going. Make sure you're talking to analysts and going to events like Low Code, No Code Day to ensure that you're not left with a solution that maybe is not growing, a company that can't keep up, and it's not taking advantage of some of these newer capabilities and technology. So I want to thank everyone again for attending today, and I want to thank SD Times Low Code No Code Day for another great day and for inviting me to speak. And again, my email is jasonb@infragistics.com if you have any questions and you want to follow up. Thanks everyone. Have a great conference.